At one point in time, there was an estimated 60 to 100 million wild rabbits living in Great Britain, and the numbers were steadily rising. Until one day, in 1953, a disease arrived here, killing them in their tens of millions. Now, if you look up the official explanations behind this, it arrived here by accident. Nobody was responsible for it, but I'm not so sure about that, because I found some information that suggests maybe it was brought here intentionally by one person in particular. We're going to try and piece that story together today, looking into the history of rabbits in Great Britain. And while we're at it, we're going to explore Rothwell Country Park here in South Leeds and see if we can find some wild rabbits, because it's been a while since I've seen one, to be honest. So fingers crossed we can spot one today. There's also going to be a giveaway happening at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that as well. Now, before we dive into how the rabbits were almost wiped out, we need to go back a little bit further in time and just see how we got there. I'm going to be keeping an eye out, by the way, whilst we're wandering around here, but please do the same, because I'm talking and walking and it is possible that I might miss something. So if you spot one that I don't see, please let us know in the comments. Now, rabbits have got a long history in Great Britain. On record, we can go all the way back to the 12th century, and further beyond there, who knows how long they've been here. And through many points in history, they were valued. They were used for their meat, used for their fur, they were valued by hunters. But at some point in history, they started to be considered a pest. A lot of flies here. But what happened? How did it all change? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It's not as if someday everybody woke up around the nation and thought, we don't like rabbits anymore. It was a steady change with a particular group of people. And we can see some records from the 1840s that do show a time period where some people started to consider rabbits to be a pest. It's definitely a bit of a wild track, a lot of cobwebs in there. I'm trying to stick to the most off-road parts of this park, by the way. I think that's going to give us the best chance of spotting some rabbits. And if you can hear that background noise, there's quite a lot of it actually, because number one, we're close by to the local Leeds Bradford Airport, and this park these days is pretty close to a major road around the city of Leeds, so it is quite noisy in certain areas. Now, we know that some people started to see rabbits as a pest, but why? What was happening? What changed? Well, it was primarily the farmers, people working in agriculture in Great Britain, because thanks to changes in agricultural practices, there were less predators to keep the numbers of rabbits in check. There was more food available for them and more suitable habitats. And as the saying goes, they were literally at it like rabbits. They were reproducing in massive numbers. All the while, the farmers say, eating a lot of crops and costing them a lot of money. And as a result of this, there was this growing anti-rabbit sentiment. Not among everybody, because a lot of people had businesses that were dependent upon rabbits. On top of that, we've got people in support of animal rights. And so there was the beginnings of a little bit of a divide in public opinion. But hey, it's just a disagreement, right? Because what are you going to do about millions and millions of rabbits? Well, something was around the corner, because in 1890, we can find the first recorded description of a disease known as myxomatosis. This name is sometimes shortened to Mixie, which I think is a little bit odd because it just sounds kind of cute. It sounds like a name of a little fluffy dog, Mixie, but it is what it is. Now, myxomatosis, as it turns out, a disease. What are these? It looks like maybe, oh my God. Oh. Okay. At first I was thinking, is that pollen? That is not pollen. Maybe this is a little bit too off-road. Okay, well, I'm covered in them now, so let's just pretend that they're not there. Sorry, yes, so myxomatosis, a disease that it turns out can wipe out rabbits in enormous numbers. It's deadly, killing on average at the time well over 99% of rabbits who contracted it. Oh, there's a train track. This park's kind of random. It's, let's go this way. It seems like a really nice park, but it's close by to the city centre, a train track, as we now know. At one point in history, it was an area used for hunting, and then it was a colliery, so a coal mine and its associated buildings. And in fact, we will pass by to the old mine shaft entrance at the top of this hill before we leave today. Now back to the story. There were some rumours as time went on that myxomatosis was a man-made disease, and then it was created by scientists during World War II. But that's not true. It's a naturally occurring disease, typically spread by blood-sucking insects. And once it became known about and understood, some people started getting an idea. Maybe we could use this, because it would be very effective at massively reducing the population of wild rabbits and eliminating, in theory, this problem the farmers had of all the crops being damaged and eaten. But it would be quite a big move, quite a bold move, introducing a disease like that would just leave tens of millions of wild animals dead lying across the nation. But in theory, it would work, even if it might be a little controversial. Now, the government couldn't really take action and use this disease, not least because this divide in public opinion. There definitely would have been some backlash. And without using the disease, they tried a number of other things to try and control this rabbit population, and none of them really worked. But then one day, in 1950, myxomatosis was intentionally released into Australia, in New South Wales. And it did a really good job. It was very effective. Following on from that, it was then released again intentionally in northern France. Same story, it worked really well. But there was no plan to bring it to Great Britain. Have we spotted any rabbits yet? I mean, there's the obvious problem here that I'm just going to be talking too loud and scaring the rabbits off. But this does seem like good rabbit territory. If we haven't spotted any by the end of the video, maybe we'll do a little semi-silent walk through some of the other kind of covered areas, see what we can find. Okay, so on with the story. No mixie in Great Britain. Lots of rabbits though, lots of rabbits. And it seemed like there was no plans to bring it here, so it was never going to arrive. But then one day, in 1953, an outbreak was discovered in Kent. What's going on here? Maybe some connection to the old coal mine here, possibly? Oh, that is a solid tree swing. I mean, we've got to just probably give it a little go, right? It's a little bit close to the tree, I don't know. Whoa. Some wheat fields. So Mixie was here, and Mixie was not cute, Mixie was deadly. Now this was the start of a long chain of events and quite a lot of drama, to be totally honest. And at this starting point, the government had three options, three choices. Number one, just contain the disease and stop it spreading entirely. Number two, let it run its course, do its thing. Or number three, accelerate it, use it to its full potential. These must be connected to the mines somehow. It looks very similar to what was just down the path there. And here too. If you're wondering why I don't know the answer to that question, by the way, it's because I've researched heavily the history of the rabbits and the disease, but not the park itself. So there's a few mysteries here that we're going to have to uncover between us. So the next steps for the government, they put together a panel. Trying to make it fair, they got together farmers, scientists, vets, anybody that they thought could bring a fair and balanced opinion to help them decide what to do. Is this just, am I being stupid and this is just like a bike track, I think. It's just been carved out in more recent years as like a dirt cross track. There's me thinking it was connected to the mines. They're just ramps. Hopefully I'm not about to get run over by someone on a mountain bike, but we'll see. So the panel were working together, trying to come up with a recommendation. It took them a little bit of time. In fact, before they even made a decision, come up with a recommendation, another outbreak had been found. So this secure site that they'd set up to contain this initial outbreak just didn't work. It was a failure. And so at this point, containment was not an option, no chance. Now, in case you're thinking, hang on a minute, Jack, you normally clear up rubbish when you're out on these walks. I do, but that's a little bit beyond what I'm capable of today, unfortunately. That's quite a lot. I'm guessing this is kind of party central for some people. Late at night on a weekend. So the disease was out, it was spreading, and nobody could really stop it. Not only that, quite a lot of people were secretly pretty happy about this. And you could easily assume, well, that's probably the end of the story because there's no stopping it, it's going to spread, job done, story over. Well, not quite, because there was a few more details that came to light after this time. And of course, everybody was speculating, how did the disease get here? How did it make its way to Kent? Many people were theorising. Some people thought maybe it was the government, a very valid question. because they did have incentive to do that. But I don't think it was. I can't prove it, but I don't think so. Some people thought maybe the disease got here on car tyres, or maybe some windswept mosquitoes. But I found someone else who's got a different idea. A man named Peter Bartrip from the University of Northampton. Now, Peter's written a research paper some years ago, summarising the whole chain of events really well. And he's come into some information from some sources of his about a man who had good contacts in France, a man who just before the outbreak took a trip over to northern France across the Channel, a man who would go on to be quite outspoken against rabbits and in favour of using the disease. Not only that, this person was a farmer who lived near the site of the first outbreak. Now, this was a man named Gordon Williams, who was received direct accusations as being the sole person who brought that disease to Great Britain. Something that's quite difficult or even impossible to definitively prove. But again, it's a bit funny because it's not like this was illegal at the time. He wasn't breaking any laws if let's suppose he had brought this disease to Great Britain. Okay, we've got a decision to make. The nice, open, spacey route, spacey, or the closed off, likely bug-ridden, but more chance of seeing rabbits route. I guess we have to go this way, don't we? So, like I said, it wouldn't have been illegal to release this disease into Great Britain at the time. So why wouldn't somebody own up to it? Well, I mentioned briefly the kind of opposing opinions at the time, and, well, cobwebs already. And some farmers had already been targeted leading up to this point for being outspoken in favour of myxomatosis, in favour of using it. So you can see why somebody might want to keep it quiet if they had done this. I'm not throwing out the accusation, just to be clear, I'm just paraphrasing the study. And this is the reason why today, kind of officially speaking, yeah, it wasn't intentionally released. Nobody did it on paper because nothing can be proven. It's all, it's speculation at the end of the day, but there is a lot of information to support Peter's theory, Peter's claims, including the fact that supposedly even Gordon's friends were a little bit suspicious. Okay, we're out in the open. Let's try and find another potential rabbit home. Now, this is another natural part of the story where you might think, well, that's it, the end, job done. But again, some more things happened after this. It's quite a dramatic chain of events in some senses. And by that I mean it looks like a lot of secretive things happening. And this was in the early 50s, pre-internet, pre-mass communications. So nobody's accidentally, leaving incriminating tweets or TikTok videos. It was all just hush hush. And that leads me to think that there must be some people around today who know what happened. Family members, friends. These stories must have been passed along. Okay, let's maybe cross over to the other side of the park. Oh, I think this is the old coal mine shaft here. And you can kind of see now where the noise, if you can hear it, is coming from. Because we can see the city of Leeds over the brow of that hill. That huge building there, I don't know what that is. I've lived around Leeds for a long time, but I've never seen that before. Now, I'm just assuming this is the old shaft. There's no signage, but it seems likely, given this was the site of an old mine. Maybe we can find some more information before we leave about just exactly what was going on here and when it closed. That would presumably explain all of this too. Okay, let's carry on, try and find some more off-road tracks. Now, we are getting close to the end of this story. And whether Gordon was responsible for this or not, the disease was out there now. And it started to spread around Great Britain. At quite a fast pace, actually. Because it was September 1953 when the first outbreak was discovered. And then in November the following year, it had been found in every single county in Great Britain, apart from one. And that one county was the county of Selkirk. And it's not Selkirk that's kind of the key to this story, but it's the way that this disease spread. Because it didn't follow natural movement. It spread fast and erratically, kind of zigzagging around, and it didn't make much sense. I was just curious about these stones. Is there anything? Can we try and figure out what's going on here? Can't be random, can it? It can't be random. That's pretty huge as well. I'm not really good at estimating heights. I'm about 6'1", 5'6", 5'7". Pretty big. So following this unnatural spread of the disease, turns out it had a helping hand. A number of farmers following the first outbreak were found to have spread the disease intentionally, taking diseased rabbits from infection sites and dropping them in their local area. And this was one of the reasons it spread so fast. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of things happening, a lot of hearsay, a lot of suspicions, accusations, but for a lot of it, no real way at the time, even now, to give a definitive timeline of who did what and when and exactly what happened. But regardless of the true sequence of events, the rabbit population was pretty much decimated. They weren't wiped out, but it came close. Tens of millions died and were left just strewn across the fields. So I guess for those against the rabbits, they got what they wanted. The population dwindled. I'm just looking around seeing where's the best place for us to get a real good chance of seeing a rabbit. We might have to actually go into the kind of woodland, into the foliage. Maybe we can go a little off-road in here. Might not be enough light for the camera. Let's see. I can see some birds. I don't think it's the best spot. We'll find somewhere. That's a cute dog. Now, whilst we're having one last look for these rabbits, did this whole thing even work? Because if there are still rabbits here today, was it just a huge waste of time? Well, since then, numbers of rabbits have been increasing. It's hard to get an exact number because it's not like you can go out and just count them. Oh yeah, that's 59,102,612. Even the estimates back then, as we heard earlier, were 60 to 100 million. So it's a pretty big distance, it's a big window. But we do know the numbers have been growing since. Not only that, the efficacy of myxomatosis against wild rabbits has been steadily decreasing. There's not many recent estimates on much data I could find about either the population of rabbits or whether they were still having a negative impact on farming. The last number I could find was from 2011, when it was estimated that there was around 40 million wild rabbits. So the number's increasing. This looks a bit too desolate for rabbits. They like more greenery, don't they? Also, I'm conscious this is quite a popular public park. I don't want to be that weird guy lurching around in the woods. Not to mention I've got a camera. Don't want to look like I'm secretly photographing anybody. Just here for the rabbits, I promise. So I'd love to know from anyone who maybe works in agriculture or, knows about the history, is it still a problem? Or is it a problem that's once again on the horizon? Because I'm just not sure. I couldn't find enough information to give me an answer either way. Let's have one last try, see if we can spot any little rabbit families on the way back. And then we need to do a tiny bit of travelling to a local library box, a public library, where we can deposit these gifts. I feel like if we were going to see some, there's not a small chance that they might just be sitting in the path of a quiet area. I've seen that before in some other parks. I have no idea where we are, by the way. I've been walking for a good 5 minutes. Haven't seen anything. Well, if there are any rabbits here, and I've been informed there are. They're doing a very good job of keeping to themselves. What is that? Oh, so this is something to do with the old coal mine. Doesn't really say what. Maybe this was an old shaft, or it's just a dangerous piece of land. Someone's gonna have to let me know what that is, unfortunately. I can't help you there, sorry. Okay, this is pretty much the end of the trail. So unfortunately, no rabbits. We've seen plenty of other things, other forms of life, but no rabbits today. It might well be my fault, stomping around, speaking loudly. Before we end the video though, we need to go and drop these gifts off for one of you to find, so let's go and do that now. All right, so we've got 4 books to give away today, donated from our last collab at Undercliff Cemetery. This is a really good one. There's 3 others, I'll try and show you. I've only got 2 hands and I can't put my camera down somewhere right now. But there is of course a message in here so that if somebody else finds it, they know where it's come from. And we've got a few Northern Introvert stickers as well. We've got some more books about some of the people buried at Undercliff Cemetery. Nancy DeGaz, a really interesting one, who we covered in a video not so long ago actually, so that's a really cool one. Booklet about the World War I graves, and then there's a children's history of Bradford as well. Let me pop these in and then I'll show you where they are. So that box is in a place called Woodlesford in South Leeds. Today's date is May 28th. So only a few days before this video gets posted. So if you find them, let us know in the comments. If they're not there, let us know as well. We'll see if we can track them down. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you know something about this story that we haven't covered, please, as always, let us know. If you've seen any rabbits recently, let us know as well. We need to try and figure out between us how many are out there in 2025. As usual, I'm not too sure where we're going to be next time, but I'm sure it's going to be somewhere interesting, somewhere different. Big thank you, of course, to everyone who supports the creation of these videos and the funding needed to make them. Hope you've enjoyed this one, and fingers crossed, I'll see you next time.